and welcome back to Sarah the Surrogate. So I am still in my first trimester with my surrogacy pregnancy, and I won't lie, like the first trimester here is kicking my ass. I'm so tired, and the food aversion and nausea is rough. I mean, thankfully for me, I don't really get true morning sickness. I just have like all day on and off nausea, and then it's kind of only relieved with, of course, carbs. And before this pregnancy, I was actually doing keto for the last year, so I had lost like 40 to 50 pounds, and I'm already like steadily gaining some of that back because I went from eating like less than 20 grams of carbs to eating so much more this last week or so. And obviously some of it's just bloating and water weight and whatnot, but obviously not all of it. I'm hoping once the first trimester is over, I can kind of curb the carb intake, but we'll see. But one of the things that has come up with the surrogacy, and this is something that me and the intended parents have been talking about for months, is where do we have this baby, right? They obviously have no frame of reference, having never had a baby. And I, of course, have had two births. But to be honest, my births were really unfulfilling. I wanted natural childbirth and did not do that. I ended up getting epidurals with my birth and have a lot of regrets, and was not super happy with the facility I birthed at because of just my overall births there were not great. They weren't exactly what I wanted. So I've really been struggling with, where do I give birth? Another aspect of this is, in addition to being a registered nurse, I'm also a birth doula. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I work with women during their pregnancy, birth, and of course the initial postpartum period, supporting them throughout that whole process. And this has given me a great insight into physiologic birth, and then just, of course, the birthing community in our surrounding area and the hospitals, right? So I've been to pretty much like all the hospitals in this area, and really struggling with, okay, well, of those hospitals, what do I think will be the most appropriate for me and my intended parents and this experience, right? Like, I want all of us to have a really good experience. And even though it's their baby, it is my body and it is my birth, and I want to make sure that it's more fulfilling this time around, because I'm not walking away with anything else other than this birth experience, right? Like, I don't get a baby to compensate for a bad birth experience. So it's kind of important to me to try to have the best birth experience possible. And as much as anything, as much as planning can be done for that, of course. One of the things that I've asked that they look into and be open about is actually looking into a birth center. And this is a little tricky, because when we first were pursuing the surrogacy and meeting with the fertility clinic, they recommended that we birth at a hospital that had a NICU that was a certain level of care and whatnot, and specifically said don't go to the local birth center, which I thought was crazy, right? If you're low risk and they accept you as a client, why could you not deliver there? It's not like they're not prepared and trained to take care of neonates if there's any issues when they're born. So why would that be necessary? And obviously, if it were higher risk, then I wouldn't even be a candidate, and so it wouldn't matter. And so thankfully, my intended parents have actually been really open. We are pursuing becoming a potential client for a local birth center. Again, you have to be a certain risk level, or aka a no risk level, in order for them to even accept you as a client. The biggest aspect of that is, again, being accepted, and then of course cost. Our birth center here doesn't, it's two fees. It's the birth center fee itself, and then the midwives, which is a fee, and my insurance only covers half of that. It doesn't cover the midwives, it covers the birthing facility. And so of course it's another huge expense for my intended parents to have to undertake. And so we're kind of in the process right now of trying to figure out if that's feasible for them, and of course if it's a place that they're comfortable with me delivering at. So that's kind of where we're at now and where to go. So the birth center would be my ideal place. Well, if that doesn't work out, which again I understand if they're not the most comfortable with it, or if it's just too much of an added expense, again I completely understand, it's a lot of out-of-pocket money, then where do we go? And that's honestly kind of stressed me out because I actually don't know the answer. I mean, I think I do. I think I know what hospital I would prefer to go to. The biggest problem is it's not super close by. So it's a little bit of a drive for me and even more of a drive for them because they live in the opposite direction of the hospital. And I just don't know if that hospital's ever worked with a surrogate. One would think maybe that they have. Again, surrogates are not that uncommon, surprisingly, but I just don't know. So, and I don't even, like, how do you go and find out if they've ever worked with surrogates before? And, you know, are there going to be issues when the intended parents are ready to walk out the door with this baby? Because, of course, I'm not taking it home because it ain't mine. So I'm really hoping that the birth center stuff works out because that's really where I would like to go. And we'll see. I'll keep y'all posted. I actually should find out tomorrow if I'm even considered a low risk enough, I guess. The midwives will kind of review my case tomorrow. And so what's left is then the financial aspect of it. You have to be cleared on both sets. You have to be cleared as low risk, and then you have to be cleared financially before they'll even schedule an appointment with you, because there's no point in moving forward if you can't do either of those things, right? So they don't even actually schedule appointments until you kind of go through this whole process beforehand. So we'll see. So that's kind of the next step is where do we deliver, picking our providers, and again, place of delivery. Because in a couple of weeks here, I'll actually be done with the fertility clinic. They only manage your care up until 9 weeks, which is when the placenta develops, and I no longer need to be on all these hormones. Because I've been on hormones for months now. I'm looking forward to being done with those because they're just kind of adding to my first trimester symptoms. So of course, once I'm done with the fertility clinic, then I need to move on to a midwife/OB practice that will manage me for the rest of this pregnancy. So I'll keep y'all updated on what the intended parents say and what the birth center says. So here we go.